You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the charity zone. You walk into this room at your own risk because it leads to the future. You may have worked on graphic design jobs in the past, but not like this. Picture a simple brief that defies the laws of traditional design, asks you for a different approach, and demands you expand your horizon to find a solution. Come with me now as we dive into my deep, deep design pocket and take a journey into the charity zone. While sitting back in my leather armchair and sipping a warm cup of mellow birds, my mind often wanders off onto topics like, what exciting design project might be coming up next? Where will the inspiration come from to put together some interesting concepts and ideas to keep the creative wheels turning? And how the devil did my design business survive the catastrophe that was 2020? And did it really survive? I mean, we're all hanging in by the skin of our teeth here, so I guess only time will tell. Among my musings and love for all things design related, I count myself lucky that I have a relatively low outgoing compared to a lot of bigger agencies out there. I'm essentially a one-man design team that calls on the aid of other fellow professionals when needed. Might need a web designer this week and an app creator the next. And there was that time I hired a lady who prepped food for photo shoots who had a predilection for mashed potato. Won't be calling her again. Whatever the answer a design brief calls for, one thing is for sure. Every job needs tackling in a unique way. There are no cookie-cutter answers to a brief or a one-size-fits-all set of design rules that can be applied to fix everything. Every job needs close analysis and assessment in order to solve the problem in a successful and creative way. Well, that's all well and good if the client that you work for has deep pockets and allows you to run free with your creative urges. I like nothing more than to be given enough time to really explore a concept, to create the answer they want, the one they might want, and one they definitely don't want, but what the hell. Let's do it anyway and see what happens. You never know, it might spark a conversation that pushes the brand forward into areas it hadn't considered before. Like that time I presented some postcards for country walks that had little holes in for your fingers to walk them around. Spent a whole 10 minutes walking my fingers around a boardroom table full of people before the crazy police arrived and sedated me. But what about those clients that don't always have big budgets? Do they deserve any less attention and creative energy than those that do? The answer of course is no. Whatever the budget, whatever the time, there is no excuse for doing a shoddy job just because there isn't enough cash to pay for your valuable hours. Every job must be approached with the same attitude, that being, we'll do the best we can in the time we've got. Let's knock it out the park. This is a kind of mantra I have, if you like, one that I apply throughout my working day and beyond that, and one group of clients that this applies to the most is the charity sector. Over the last 20 years, I've been working in the design and advertising industry, an industry that prides itself on solving creative problems across a multitude of sectors, while simultaneously trying to create art that stacks up against the work of its peers. In this competitive design world, it is easy to see why agencies want to gun for the bigger clients that have budgets that can make everyone's dreams come true. Design nice things, please clients, win awards. It's the Holy Trinity. During my time in the industry, I've worked on many different charity brands. The first being Macmillan Cancer Relief back at the tail end of 1999. The design company that I worked for at the time had a similar work ethic to me regarding charity work. That being that regardless of the budget and time, let's design something great. With that in mind, we did put together some very interesting and creative design and advertising campaigns. We also worked with Macmillan to help build their brand and advise them on the steps that they needed to take in order to maintain consistency throughout their visual communications. It was a great thing to be a part of. It was also the first time that I really felt that design wasn't just about being arty, winning awards and earning money. It was also an amazing channel to really make a difference to a lot of people. If you can answer a charity brief in a fun and engaging way, then you can reach more people and make a positive change in people's lives. That is a reward in itself. Now, I'm not saying that all designers were sent from above to help those less fortunate. Or am I? But we do play a pivotal role in translating the client's messages in a way that is clear and concise in order to achieve its objective. To successfully reach out and help people through communication is a tough task, but a satisfying one all the same. Needless to say, having cut my teeth on Macmillan, which was one of the larger charities at the time, I was becoming well versed in how to handle these kinds of briefs differently to others. And over the years I've worked for over 20 charities and devoted a lot of time to trying to improve their communications. It's hard not to come over all preachy, but at the same time I am very proud to have worked on many charitable campaigns that have really made a change for the better.
All the good work you do for charity that you don't like to talk about.
Don't like to talk about that, mate.
At the turn of the century there was still a slight stigma among design creatives when it came to charity briefs, like they were somehow second class compared to the bigger blue chip clients. Even among my fellow designers who moved in the same circles as me, there was an attitude that if you worked on charity work, then you were somehow not as important as a designer as those that didn't. You were considered to be on a lower rung and therefore less likely to get involved with the briefs that had larger budgets and a larger artistic playground. I have to say that the sad thing is that the bulk of design and advertising agencies at this time worked with charities because it made them look good, presenting themselves to potential clients as a conscientious company that cared about important topics, essentially using charities as bait for bigger non-charity businesses to see them in a positive light. The truth is that if a large agency had a charity as a client, then the briefs they received were usually handed to the design teams that were further down the food chain, or the senior designers and directors of the design company would promise one thing to a charity while delivering a much lower quality of work with the other. I've seen this time and time again. Businesses that trade off the back of their charity work when they couldn't really care less. It just looks good. Meanwhile, the work placement that came in this week is suddenly thrust into a charity brief that is beyond their scope and undelivered to the client on a multitude of levels. It is a disservice to the brief and a creative crime in my opinion. Now, let's not ignore the companies that also produce a lot of work for charity pro bono. That term pro bono gets bandied around a lot within charity design and means a few things. It means that a design and advertising company is happy to help a charity to achieve their goals without charging any money. It means that the charity will receive the campaign work for free and is free to distribute that at their leisure. It means that the charity has a limited amount of time given to them by the agency, so don't waste it. It also means that the charity will have to be happy with 90% of what they're given, whether they like it or not. In this case, pro bono work can sometimes be a negative thing regarding these kinds of collaborations. It can prevent the charity from having much of a say in the development and final answer to their briefs. It is a disempowering term, which means that the agency can pretty much deliver any old crap and the charity can either accept it or move on. With no financial incentive, the agencies tend to be less concerned with the quality of output for the charity that they are working for. What they get out of it is some positive client bait in their folio and a general warm, fuzzy feeling all over. There are rare occasions when pro bono work pays off, but only if the attitude of the company regards the work as important as all of the other briefs that they are working on for non-charity clients. I've lost count of the amount of briefs that I've been given that start with, "We had some pro bono work done for a campaign we want to launch, but it wasn't quite what we wanted. Can you fix it?" I find other agencies' lackluster, laid-back approach to solving these kinds of briefs an offensive waste of everyone's time. Do a good job and move along. People are relying on these campaigns to be successful in order to help others. There is no room for time wasters, and any agency that does or has employed this kind of attitude towards what I consider to be the most important client base in your portfolio should be ashamed of themselves, or certainly as important as all of the other footwear, alcohol, restaurant, etc. clients that you do have. In some ways, it's better to ditch the pro bono offer in favour of a much lower design fee, a nominal amount that in no way covers the time and effort needed to solve the brief, but acts as a marker for both parties to arrive as equals to the same table. I'd be interested to see how many agencies would go for that if a charity suggested that as a viable alternative to the pro bono work that's already been offered. I suspect a lot of those design companies would not be interested in that arrangement, as it allows the charity client to have more of a say in the final delivered product and therefore risks pushback on concepts and ideas that agencies would otherwise present as the final answer. They would have to think twice before committing to something that they would actually have to think about and work hard to solve. But I digress. Designing for charities gives your work meaning. Having worked across a multitude of client sectors over the years, I find that some of my favourite briefs were charity ones that had little or no budget. This limitation can often spark the wildest ideas, and if you're working with a client who is open to experimenting and taking risks, then that kind of collaboration is the holy grail. There's something quite exhilarating about solving a brief in a way that exceeds everyone's expectations and elevates the subject. Now, I'm not saying that this happens every time, but it does happen, and the personal satisfaction of taking something good and making it great is second to none. And when that idea then resonates with the target audience and has a positive result, that is truly an example of the power of great teamwork, creative thinking, and the impact that good design can have. One thing that has definitely changed over the years is the internal structures of charities. The old school internal structure of a charity has had to develop and adapt to fit in with the ever-growing agility of the modern day design company. Gone, or certainly nearly gone, are the days of more traditional leanings towards the design process in favour of something much more flexible and fluid. Design companies want to produce their best work while solving the brief. Charities have had to adapt to this way of thinking and have done so pretty successfully. A lot of charities have a large turnover of staff, especially in the marketing and events teams. This sector is one that encourages people to move sideways up and along to better themselves and get the best out of those people. There is a lot of cross-pollination between charities as people grow and improve their skills and want to move on. The charity sector is one that throws people into the deep end and teaches them everything they need to know about surviving in a job that has many great rewards. Because of this influx of young, keen and eager employees, there is an energy there that has taken a while to harness, but oh my lord, harnessed it has been. The traditional classic infrastructure and long-term management of these charities have started to listen to their younger, more up-to-date colleagues, and I've seen this develop massively over the last 20 years. Young people coming into an established charity have the opportunity to put their stamp on the direction that the future of that charity holds. Long printed reports have a place, but now the younger generations are guiding the older ones towards webcasts and streaming events and animation and social media posts and live services to achieve these common goals. And they are changing the way in which people understand and relate to charities on a personal level. Charities now know more than ever that their strength lies in connectivity to their audience and supporters. Modern day technology allows them to run digital campaigns directly to people's smartphones, to connect in a way that wasn't even possible only a short time ago. And the successful ones achieve this by listening to the youth that work for them and take calculated risks on how to develop this growing aspect of communication. I'm personally working on more and more digital charity advertising campaigns these days than ever before. Any identity work and promotional print materials are quickly followed up by a secondary brief that tends to cover all of the digital aspects. It is a fun and exciting thing to be a part of, and just when I think I've got it down, another new, flexible and exciting idea takes me down a rabbit hole of relearning in order to keep up with the times. So I guess, old dog, new tricks. So to come full circle, this shift in approach has allowed charities to streamline themselves alongside design and advertising companies. This kind of digital forward thinking is something that creative companies have been doing for years, and now that the charities are catching up and in some case overtaking this, it makes working together a much more thrilling experience. Knowing that the client you are working with has the same creative goals as you is not a bad place to be. It allows you to get the best out of a brief and really try and push the ideas as far as they can go without the fear that a good modern idea might get left by the wayside in favour of a more traditional solution. This, you think, is the core of the future of all charity communications and can only aid the process of achieving the best with what we have been given. A case in point would be the Prince's Trust. Now, full disclaimer, I have been lucky enough to work with this great charity for 12 years already. To date, I have worked on nearly 2,000 of their briefs since 2008, which is mind-blowing. This charity has given me the opportunity to work on a massive range of communications throughout the years, from identities to brochures to advertising campaigns to events and so on. We even designed an Airstream once, which helps to show you how diverse you need to be in your design work when working on many of these different aspects with your client. The Prince's Trust are a shining example of how to take the bull by the horns and embrace this forward thinking and technological advancement. When I first began working with them, they have a relatively small marketing team in central London. We would work on a lot of printed materials, and from day one our thinking was very similar. Their approach was to solve the brief in a strong and cohesive manner while also leaving the door open to any crazy ideas that I might want to also present. This was mainly down to the fact that the team was led by a young and talented manager who could see that the way forward was not always to repeat what had been done before. That leadership trickled down into the team and we had some great times. It was an exciting union to be a small cog in an otherwise larger machine, which I still find awesome. That team produced so much work for the country and maintained the quality while delivering some new and innovative ideas. Anyone that knows me know I love anything that folds in a weird way, and arrows. I love arrows. Every concept I present would usually have an option with some off-the-wall format, and to be honest, they didn't always go through, but on the occasions that they were appropriate, they would. This is just one example of how a design company can push a client into solving a brief in a different way, and how a client can begin to get into that creative mindset. And luckily in this case, I didn't really have to try very hard. With that kind of open-mindedness, it didn't take long for the trust to switch onto other aspects within their creative thinking. Rebranding work followed. They moved to a more up-and-coming building in a busier location in London, London embracing all aspects of the attitude that they were developing. They've since moved again, and as you can see, the attention and understanding of how design impacts people's perceptions is prevalent. As well as this, the marketing team has blossomed. I can remember when the team first introduced a new member whose job it was to update the website banner, which quickly became maintaining the social media posts, which has exploded into a focused digital team that cover all aspects of digital media. The new youth of today bring energy and life into the charity and allow for expansion, something that is essential for survival in this current climate. This can only happen with an understanding that you need to embrace the future and not stand still in one place for too long. The Prince's Trust does that in a way that feels very avant-garde. Times and teams have changed, but they are still a shining example of how to do things right. Just when things start to get comfortable, a new member joins the team and reminds everyone that there is more to learn out there. You just have to grab it. When I think of how they have developed in such a short space of time and how all of this is geared towards helping so many people, it makes me very proud to be a part of this. They have supported 1 million people over the last 4 decades and continue to raise money, awareness and support for the youth of tomorrow. And they have done so by staying up to date and understanding that they need to move with the times and form a synergy with design in order to achieve the best that they can do. In my experience as a designer, I've worked with many different charitable clients and had many different experiences, but a few things remain the same. The sector is easily one of the most creative without a doubt. Tight budgets and time restrictions mean that design companies need to push themselves to think outside of the box to deliver better results. Attitudes within charities now favour design evolution more than ever, and design companies are starting to realise that they need to have better relationships with this sector. It can only help to give these briefs the respect that they deserve and ultimately help the people that these campaigns are aimed at. It's not always about profit and status. We can do more.
What do we do when our world is turned upside down, when everything we thought to be true is ripped away and we are forced to face a new reality? Surely by now you must have worked out the fact that if we don't embrace our briefs in a different way, we may be closing our eyes instead of opening them. And that perhaps our only hope is to adapt our own reality to create a change, to help others through positive choice, to open ourselves to the unknown, not the end of the story, but a new beginning. So remember, whatever you do, be good, stay safe, and be kind to one another in the Charity Zone.